Are you ready to validate your expertise in the Spring ecosystem and join the ranks of elite VMware Spring Certified Professionals? In this video, we will cover VMware Spring Certified Professional full exam prep, practice questions and detailed explanations. Boost your career with the VMware Spring Certified Professional designation. In this video, we dive deep into 30 high-yield practice questions designed to mirror the actual VMware Spring Certified Professional exam. We cover everything from container basics and AOP to Spring data, security, and microservices. Make sure to grab a notepad, because we are going through detailed explanations for every single answer. Which annotation is used to indicate that a class is a configuration class and can contain @bean methods? Option A, @component. Option B, @configuration. Option C, @service. Option D, @repository. The correct answer is B. The @configuration annotation is a specialized form of @component. When a class is marked with @configuration, it tells the Spring container that this class contains methods annotated with @bean. The Spring container processes these classes to generate bean definitions and service requests for those beans at runtime. Unlike plain @component classes, @configuration classes allow for inter-bean dependencies by calling other @bean methods within the same class, ensuring that the singleton contract is honored via CGLIB proxying. What is the primary purpose of Spring Boot application annotation? Option A, to enable only Web MVC features. Option B, to trigger the Spring Boot auto configuration mechanism only. Option C, to combine @configuration, @enable auto configuration, and @component scan. Option D, to mark a class as a controller. The correct answer is C. Spring Boot application is a convenience annotation that wraps three common annotations used in Spring Boot development. 1. @configuration allows the class to define beans. 2. @enable auto configuration tells Spring Boot to start adding beans based on class path settings, other beans, and various property settings. 3. @component scan tells Spring to look for other components, configurations, and services in the package, allowing it to find the controllers and other beans automatically. What is the default scope of a Spring bean if no scope is explicitly specified? Option A, prototype. Option B, request. Option C, session. Option D, singleton. The correct answer is D. By default, every bean in a Spring IOC container is a singleton. This means that the container creates exactly one instance of that bean. This single instance is stored in a cache of such singleton beans, and all subsequent requests and references for that named bean return the cached object. This is highly efficient for stateless services, controllers, and repositories. If you need a new instance every time, you must explicitly set the scope to prototype. Which type of advice runs after a method returns successfully without throwing an exception? Option A, @after. Option B, @around. Option C, @after returning. Option D, @after throwing. The correct answer is C. @after returning advice is executed only after a matched method execution completes normally, successfully. If the method throws an exception, this advice will not execute. This is useful when you need to log the return value or perform logic that depends on the successful completion of the business logic. In contrast, at after, finally, runs regardless of the outcome, and at after throwing runs only if an exception is raised. What does the at transactional annotation do when applied to a method? Option A. It converts the method into a REST endpoint. Option B. It ensures the method runs within a database transaction context. Option C. It automatically saves all local variables to the database. Option D. It prevents the method from being called by multiple threads. The correct answer is B. The at transactional annotation is used to wrap a method in a database transaction. When the method is called, Spring starts a transaction. If the method completes successfully, the transaction is committed. If the method throws a runtime exception, by default, the transaction is rolled back. This ensures data integrity and atomicity, meaning either all database operations within the method succeed, or none of them are applied. Which annotation is used to map a web request to a specific handler method in a controller? Option A, at request mapping. Option B, at handler request. Option C, at web method. Option D, at path. The correct answer is A. At request mapping is the primary annotation for mapping web requests onto specific handler classes and/or handler methods. It can be used at the class level to express shared patterns, e.g., API users, and at the method level to narrow down the specific HTTP method, GET, POST, etc., and the specific subpath. Modern shortcuts like at GET mapping and at POST mapping are composed annotations that use at request mapping internally. In Spring Security, which interface should be implemented to load user-specific data during authentication? Option A, User Details Service. Option B, Authentication Manager. Option C, Security Context. Option D, Password Encoder. The correct answer is A. The User Details Service interface is used to retrieve user-related data. It has one method named loadUser-by-username, which finds a user entity based on the username. This is the core interface used by Spring Security to bridge your application's database or any other data source with the security framework's authentication process. It returns a user details object which contains the username, password, and granted authorities, roles. Where does Spring Boot look for application properties by default? Option A, SRC, Main, Settings. Option B, SRC, Main, Resources. Option C, Web INF. Option D, etc., Spring. The correct answer is B. By default, Spring Boot automatically loads properties from a file named Application, Properties, or application.iml, located in the SRC Main Resources folder, which ends up in the root of the class path. Spring Boot also looks in other locations like the config subdirectory of the current directory, the current directory itself, or a config package in the class path, but SRC Main Resources is the standard development location. Which bean post processor handles the auto-wired annotation? Option A, Common Annotation Bean Post Processor. Option B, Auto-wired Annotation Bean Post Processor. Option C, Required Annotation Bean Post Processor. Option D, Configuration Class Post Processor. The correct answer is B. The auto-wired annotation bean post processor is responsible for scanning and processing the @auto-wired and @value annotations. It is automatically registered in the Spring context when using less than context. Annotation config greater than or less than context. Component scan greater than in XML, or automatically when using @configuration classes. It scans the bean classes for these annotations and performs the actual dependency injection before the bean is fully initialized. What is the purpose of the mapped by attribute in a @one-to-many relationship in JPA? Option A. To define the name of the table. Option B. To specify the foreign key column name. Option C. To indicate the field in the child entity that owns the relationship. Option D. To enable lazy loading. The correct answer is C. The mapped by attribute is used in a bidirectional relationship to define the non-owning side of the association. It points to the field in the target child entity that holds the @many-tune annotation and owns the foreign key in the database. By using mapped by, you tell JPA that the relationship is already mapped by the other entity, preventing the creation of a redundant join table. Which annotation is used to extract a template variable from the URI of a request? Option A, @requestParam. Option B, @pathVariable. Option C, @requestBody. Option D, @headerParam. The correct answer is B. @pathVariable is used to bind a method parameter to a URI template variable. For example, if your mapping is users id, you use @pathVariable id to extract the ID from the URL. @requestParam, on the other hand, is used to extract query parameters, e.g., users id equals 5. What is a Spring Boot starter? Option A, a specialized IDE for Spring. Option B, a set of convenient dependency descriptors for your application. Option C, a class that starts the main method. Option D, a configuration file for server settings. The correct answer is B. Spring Boot starters are a set of convenient dependency descriptors that you can include in your application. They provide a one-stop shop for all the Spring and related technologies you need, without having to hunt through sample code and copy-paste loads of dependency descriptors. For example, if you want to build a web application, you just include Spring Boot Starter Web, and it brings in all necessary dependencies like Tomcat, Spring MVC, and Jackson. What is a point cut in Spring AOP? Option A, the actual logic to be executed. Option B, a predicate that matches join points. Option C, the target object being advised. Option D, a proxy object. The correct answer is B. A point cut is a predicate or expression that matches join points. Points in the execution of a program, such as method executions. Advice is associated with a point cut expression and runs at any join point matched by the point cut. Point cuts allow you to decouple your advice logic from the specific methods it should apply to, using patterns, e.g., execution of all methods in a service package. Which annotation is used in a Spring Boot test to load the full application context? Option A, @Web MVC test. Option B, @Data JPA test. Option C, @Spring Bootist. Option D, @Context configuration. The correct answer is C. At Spring Boot Test is the primary annotation for integration testing in Spring Boot. It starts the full application context, searching for the Spring Boot application configuration class. This is useful when you want to test how different layers of your application work together. In contrast, at Web MVC test or at DataJB test are sliced tests that only load specific parts of the context to keep tests faster. What is CSRF in the context of web security? Option A. Cross-site request forgery. Option B. Centralized security resource framework. Option C. Client-side remote function. Option D. Cross-system response filter. The correct answer is A. CSRF. Cross-site request forgery is an attack that tricks a victim into submitting a malicious request. It inherits the identity and privileges of the victim to perform an undesired action on the victim's behalf. Spring Security provides built-in protection against CSRF by requiring a synchronized token, CSRF token, to be included in any state-changing requests. Post, put, delete. Which Spring data interface provides basic CRUD operations and pagination, sorting capabilities? Option A. CRUD repository. Option B. JPA repository. Option C. Paging and sorting repository. Option D. Repository. The correct answer is B. While CRUD repository provides basic CRUD and paging and sorting repository adds pagination, JPA repository extends both of them and adds JPA-specific methods, like flushing the persistence context or deleting records in batches. Therefore, JPA repository is the most comprehensive interface for JPA-based data access in Spring Data. What does the @qualifier annotation solve? Option A. It specifies the priority of a bean. Option B. It resolves ambiguity when multiple beans of the same type exist. Option C. It marks a bean as primary. Option D. It identifies the bean name in the database. The correct answer is B. When there is more than one bean of the same type in the Spring context. @AutoWired alone will cause a no unique bean definition exception. The @qualifier annotation allows you to specify exactly which bean should be injected by providing its ID or name. This resolves the ambiguity and ensures the correct dependency is provided. Which HTTP method is considered idempotent? Option A. Post. Option B. Patch. Option C. Get. Option D. None of the above. The correct answer is C. An idempotent HTTP method is one that can be called many times without different outcomes. Get, put, and delete are idempotent. Calling get multiple times returns the same data without changing the server state. Calling put multiple times with the same payload results in the same state. Post is not idempotent because calling it multiple times will likely create multiple resources. How can you change the default port, 8080, of a Spring Boot application? Option A. By setting server, port and application properties. Option B. By changing the OS environment variable web_port. Option C. By modifying the Tomcat source code. Option D. It cannot be changed. The correct answer is A. Spring Boot is highly configurable through properties. To change the port of the embedded web server, you simply add server port equals 9090, or any other port, to your application, properties or application.iml file. This is much simpler than traditional WAR deployments where port configuration happened at the server level. Which Spring Cloud component is used as a discovery server? Option A, Spring Cloud Config. Option B, Netflix Eureka. Option C, Netflix Zool. Option D, Spring Cloud Gateway. The correct answer is B. Netflix Eureka is the standard discovery server in the Spring Cloud ecosystem. It allows microservices to register themselves at runtime so that other services can discover them, without hardcoding host names and port numbers. While Spring Cloud Gateway and Zool handle routing, Eureka handles the service registry. At what stage of the bean lifecycle is at post-construct executed? Option A, before the bean is instantiated. Option B, after the properties are set, but before the bean is ready for use. Option C, after the bean is destroyed. Option D, during the compilation phase. The correct answer is B. At post-construct is part of the initialization phase of the Spring Bean lifecycle. It is called by the container after all bean properties have been set. Dependency injection is complete, but before the bean is officially ready to be used by the application. It is commonly used for validation or final setup logic. What is the role of the dispatcher servlet? Option A, to handle database connections. Option B, to act as the front controller for all web requests. Option C, to provide security filtering. Option D, to compile JSP files. The correct answer is B. The dispatcher servlet is the core of Spring MVC. It implements the front controller design pattern. All incoming web requests are intercepted by this servlet, which then consults handler mappings to decide which controller should handle the request after the controller processes the request. The dispatcher servlet manages the view resolution and returns the response. In Mockito, what is the difference between @mock and @spy? Option A, @mock creates a full object. @spy creates a partial object. Option B, @mock creates a dummy object. @spy wraps a real object. Option C, there is no difference. Option D, @mock is for integration tests. @spy is for unit tests. The correct answer is B. @mock creates a complete placeholder, mock, of a class where every method does nothing by default, or returns default values. @spy, however, creates a partial mock by wrapping a real, existing instance. With a spy, the real methods are called unless you explicitly stub them. This is useful when you want to track interactions with a real object. What is the propagation level required in Spring transactions? Option A, always creates a new transaction. Option B, supports a current transaction, creates a new one if none exists. Option C, throws an exception if no transaction exists. Option D, runs without a transaction context. The correct answer is B. Propagation required is the default setting in Spring. It means the method needs a transaction to run. If a transaction is already running in the calling method, it will join that transaction. If no transaction is running, it will start a new one. This ensures that the code always runs within a transactional context. Which annotation is used to enable method-level security in Spring? Option A. At Enable Security. Option B. At Enable Web Security. Option C. At Enable Global Method Security. Option D. At Secure Method. The correct answer is C. To use annotations like at pre-authorize, at post-deauthorize, or at secured on your service methods, you must annotate a configuration class with at Enable Global Method Security. Note: in newer versions of Spring Security, this has been superseded by at Enable Method Security, but at Enable Global Method Security remains the classic exam answer. What does the fat jar produced by Spring Boot contain? Option A. Only the application code. Option B. Application code and all dependencies, including an embedded server. Option C. Only the external library links. Option D. The source code in Java format. The correct answer is B. One of Spring Boot's most powerful features is the fat jar, or executable jar. It packages your compiled application code along with every single library dependency and an embedded servlet container, like Tomcat or Jetty. This allows the application to be run on any machine with Java installed using the command java jar app.jar without needing an external web server. What is the purpose of the @query annotation in Spring Data JPA? Option A. To define a table name. Option B. To write custom JPQL or SQL queries. Option C. To create a database index. Option D. To enable caching. The correct answer is B. While Spring Data JPA can derive queries from method names, like find by email, sometimes the logic is too complex for this naming convention. The @query annotation allows developers to write custom JPQL, Java Persistence Query Language, or native SQL directly above the repository method, providing full control over the query execution. What does a response body do when applied to a controller method? Option A. It renders a JSP page. Option B. It tells Spring to serialize the return object into the response body, usually as JSON. Option C. It hides the response from the client. Option D. It redirects the request to another URL. The correct answer is B. In a standard @controller, methods usually return a string representing a view name. When you add @response body, you tell Spring that the return value of the method should be bound directly to the web response body. Spring uses HTTP message converters, like Jackson, to convert the Java object into JSON or XML automatically. @REST controller is a shortcut that adds a response body to every method in the class. Which of the following is not a type of dependency injection in Spring? Option A. Constructor injection. Option B. Setter injection. Option C. Field injection. Option D. Interface injection. The correct answer is D. Spring primarily supports constructor, setter, and field injection. Interface injection is a type of D where the resource provides an injector method that will inject the dependency into any client that passes itself to that method. While conceptually part of DI theory, it is not a standard pattern used or implemented within the Spring framework. What is the function of @conditional on property? Option A. It validates if a property is a valid URL. Option B. It includes a bean only if a specific configuration property is present and has a specific value. Option C. It encrypts properties in application properties. Option D. It makes a property mandatory for the application to start. The correct answer is B. A conditional on property is one of the many conditional annotations used for Spring Boot's auto configuration. It allows beans to be conditionally created based on the existence or value of a property in the environment, e.g., application properties. This allows developers to enable or disable entire features or components simply by changing a configuration value. That wraps up our 30-question deep dive into the VMware Spring Certified Professional exam. How many did you get right? Let us know in the comments. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more certification prep content. For the complete set of premium mock exams with updated questions, check out the link in the description below.